The first part of this lecture focuses on consumer culture and design after World War II. It is informed by the fact that there was a shift in both materials and roles, gender roles, as the soldiers returned to Europe and as the technologies that had been developed in World War II shift. This lecture is going to primarily focus on interiors and on design. And the most important reading is really from chapter 6 in Massey. But there's also a good section on art that is in a separate part. Between the Great Depression and where you see this rural electrification administration, where women were encouraged to be active and to use home economics as a way of furthering the country and a symbol of strength, to the post-war era when movies like this made fun of women being able to take a man's job, and we see a woman sleeping in a kitchen as a symbol of her inability to do a man's work. A whole industry grew up in giving advice about decorating, about entertaining, about what your kitchen should look like. This is the genesis of magazines like House Beautiful, Good Housekeeping, Ladies' Home Journal. And we see once again Dorothy Draper, who I introduced in the introductory lecture, very important as a self-made starter, but where she gives the advice in the 1940s, end of 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, about how women, housewives, can make decorating both fun and something that they feel that they could manage. Although Dorothy Draper's own designs and the way she rose to fame was through these surrealist landscapes that she made within doors using evocative prints and directed views and working for the elite hotel industry. The kind of aesthetic she encouraged for the home was this very floral, pastel-based idea where you made these seating groups and defined your areas of the room through a shift in floral prints or through a shift in color, and that there's always attention to seating groupings as one of her dominant ideas. The new housekeeping relied on synthetic fabrics that allowed you to wipe things clean. It was based on the advent of the television, which was at the center of the decorations. And while you were out making this perfect home, you were also expected to shift your style from the very practical 1930s style to a 1940s style that boasted a really tight beeline waistline, and flared skirts, very high heels, all of these things to make yourself at the service of the man rather than as somebody who was strong and capable and doing a physical job. The new kitchens featured derivations from the laminates that were developed during the World War II. Specifically, one of the more famous ones is Formica, which allowed a range of colors that you picked out in these little chips. They came in different textures and different colors, and they allowed the homeowner some control over the palette and led to a wide range of really vibrant color interiors. By the 1960s, the baby boom was in full tilt, and women were expected to manage by staying at home. But they were granted these really vibrant countertops, these exciting palettes of colors, bright contrasts of orange and blues. And then they also had the fashionable model of Jacqueline Kennedy, whose designs for her interior were much touted in the press that was designed for this women audience. The focus on the family led to new kinds of furniture arrangements, like the banquette or the dinette that we see right here with a Formica top, matching metal chairs fitting in the Formica-driven color scheme of a day room. We also see the advertisement of new kinds of easy wipe, easy care cloths that allow you to set a table with an elegant looking pattern at the for the evening meal. And of course we see here the woman all dressed nicely serving her family a chicken roast that she has prepared and that she will be able to successfully serve because she has this beautiful cloth. Likewise, the focus on the family led to a host of new designs for appliances, and you could do all kinds of exciting things with these new appliances, like put contact paper on the cover to match the floral scheme or the bright color scheme that you might have elsewhere. You could also move those appliances within the kitchen, giving much more flexibility for arrangement. Synthetics developed during the war were used as fabrics for furnishings as well as for table covers, as we saw, for clothing, but also one of the innovative uses was for dormitory bedspreads. And MIT, for instance, with its new dormitory built by Alvar Aalto, had matching bedspreads that were designed by none other than Annie Albers, trained at the Bauhaus. And they used that same kind of synthetic rayon material, which she mastered into as a very functional weave. She also, though, worked in a lot of different textiles during the 1940s and 1950s and was very important in terms of her designs for inviting a more realistic texture that should remind you a little bit of brutalism, being honest to the fabrics, giving a tactility. And this is very different than the kind of aesthetic of the easy wipe and the Formica care. So it's not only that brutalism is a pushback against the aesthetic, the streamlined aesthetic of modernism, but it's also a pushback against the ubiquitous smoothness of these polymers that were everywhere in home design. However, we're embraced by architects and designers like Charles and Ray Eames, and part of why they embraced these was that they had learned some molding techniques and some laminating techniques in service in the Army. So we know that Charles Eames, for instance, worked with the First Aid Corps in designing splints. And one of the things that MoMA has on display that's really kind of interesting to see is a molded splint for a leg that was designed by Charles Eames and was a precursor really to the development of his designs in furniture.